One of the things that codependent people struggle most with when it comes to setting boundaries and saying no to people, and I say this as a recovering codependent, so I have that t-shirt, it can feel like we are not being loving enough towards this person, right? So let's, we feel like we don't want to let them fall. I love them too much to see them fall. I love them too much to see them this broken. If somebody comes back to us who has left us brokenhearted, but then they come back super upset, we'll find ourselves going back to them or accepting them back in because we hate seeing them hurt so bad. And there is this idea that pain is synonymous with remorse. It's not, by the way, but it can be really hard to say no. And a lot of times people will say things like, well, I don't want to see people hurt. I don't want to see people suffer. I don't want to piss people off. I don't want to see people angry. I don't want to be the cause of their pain. And I felt all of those things as I was going through my journey of healing it. However, it is not always the most loving choice to deny people the consequences of their own choices. And here's what I mean. It's like being in a grocery store and you see a parent with their toddler and the toddler wants a candy bar. Well, candy bars aren't good for you. Maybe that toddler's already had a candy bar. I don't know. But when the parent says no to that toddler, what they are really saying is, I love you too much to say yes, honey. I love you too much to encourage behavior that might build bad habits in the future for your health. I love you too much to give you something unhealthy now. I love you too much to let you live under the illusion that I myself have no boundaries and that you are the one without boundaries. I love you too much to say yes. Remember that. I love you too much to say yes. And sometimes that is the most powerful expression of love you can offer someone, is to say no. And it sucks. It's painful. It's rough. I get it. I've been there. But especially when dealing with people who are used to you being codependent, who are used to you overgiving, who are used to you transgressing your own boundaries so that they don't have to feel the consequences of their own choices, it can feel like having to say no to a toddler. You might actually experience an adult-sized tantrum. Honestly, people who are not used to you saying no might throw some major tantrums, but here's the thing. If you say yes to enabling behavior that is harming them, this is the case with addictions. If you say yes to enabling behavior that allows them to harm you, in the case of toxic relationships, if you participate in behavior that is prolonging their suffering and keeping them from realizing the consequences of their choices, you are robbing them of the dignity of growing from those choices. I'll say that again. Very often, we as humans need to experience the consequences of our choices in order to grow. And as codependent people, we love to take away the suffering of the world, don't we? However, when we take away that suffering, all we're doing is letting the pressure valve off just enough to extend the real suffering. By keeping somebody from hitting rock bottom, whether that's by keeping them from not experiencing the pain of losing you for good, whether that's keeping them from hitting the very real rock bottom of addiction, whether that's keeping them from hitting the rock bottom of feeding off of you for money or energy or time, we deny them the dignity of hitting that rock bottom. So they say, enough is enough. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I choose to choose something different for myself. If we ease their suffering, and sometimes it is very real suffering, sometimes it's the suffering of, but baby, I'm so lonely without you. even though they're the one that chose to leave the relationship. Whenever we deny somebody the dignity of the consequences of their own choices, we are not acting in a loving way. So if you have been having struggles with holding boundaries with people, don't think of it as saying no. Don't think of it as drawing this hard wall. Don't think of it as a punishment. Your boundaries are not a punishment. They are an option. And people can choose to honor those boundaries or they won't. And there are consequences that come with both choices. But what you are really saying when you hold your boundaries with someone is, I love you too much to say yes. I love you too much to enable this pattern that is harming you. I love you too much to let you live under the illusion that this behavior is okay, and thus maybe causing greater suffering with someone who won't put up with it later on. I love you too much to engage in behavior that harms me, that is not aligned with me, and to let you continue to do it while I slowly begin to resent you. I love you too much to begin to resent you, and so I will hold this boundary. I love you too much. And with that, hope it helps. Happy healing.